The next assignment that you're going to work on is this landscape drawing assignment. You're going to go to the Gravit designer and you're going to create a new web desktop design and change the screen size to huge. So in Gravit designer, you're going to click new design. You're going to want to go to web desktop and change it to this website huge option. And you're going to be starting with a blank canvas right here. And what you're going to be creating, if you look back at the assignment, I've provided you with some examples here. So it's basically a vector drawing of a landscape. A lot of people use a real image as their inspiration to draw this. Obviously, there's a lot of creative elements that you can add in here. You can come up with a scene right from scratch, but looking at this, it's all drawn in vector shapes. They've used highlights and shadows, so they've decided that this the light was coming from the right side of the screen. So you can see on the mountains here that the certain areas have different colors, the darker color meaning the shadow side and the lighter color meaning the highlight side. Added some clouds and stuff. So your creativity is endless here. You can do whatever you want to make this landscape drawing, but there's several examples of what other people have done. You'll notice that they kind of all have like a color theme to them. So if this one chose purple, this one is someone that drew, and you'll notice they've used this thing called gradients, where the color transitions from one color gradually out to the next. So you got a radial gradient around the sun to kind of make it look a little bit better here. And the same thing on these trees, right? You got this lighter green and it transitions to a darker green to kind of show as a highlight to the shadow for the trees. So how do you do those types of things? Well, if you grab your pen tool and you're drawing a shape, it doesn't necessarily matter what the shape is. I'm just going to draw like a random triangular type shape. Any of you guys that were working with the pen tool yesterday, I'm wondering, when you guys were drawing your stuff, as you click, you'll notice that you get straight lines. But if you click and drag, it's how you add curved lines to your drawing. So that's something to keep in mind. And if you press enter, it will end your line. You can always go back and adjust the handles on these to make them better. If you click on an individual anchor point, you always have the option in the appearance menu here to determine what kind of point it is, and then you can adjust it after. So that's something that is actually really useful. I'm just going to delete all of this stuff here for now. But what I was getting at with gradients, so if I had like a random shape, doesn't matter what it is, and I wanted to fill it, when you click on the fills over here, you have this option for color fill. You can change it to what type of gradient that you would like for it to be. If you click linear gradient, it will basically start from one way to the other, and you can adjust your gradient but with this slider over in here. And if you wanted to modify the color, you just click on this, and then you can adjust what color it is on that side. You click on this one and you can adjust what color you have on the other side. And then you can shorten or lengthen this line in order to adjust where the gradient is. You can move these points around to make the gradient come from a different direction. So if you go back to some of these drawings, right, they would have put a linear gradient that would have went from this color green to that color green and just kind of made it go through, and they would have filled the trees in using that. Obviously they get more advanced depending on how much detail you're willing to put into your project. But again, the sun's over here. You got some highlights on the peaks that they have here, and they got some trees in the foreground. But you'll notice that the colors are darker in the foreground and lighter in the background. So you got to keep that in mind as you're drawing them. So these are just some examples of what other people have done. It's up to you what you decide to do. If you decide to choose a photo as your kind of backdrop, just kind of do what you did with your self-portrait, put it behind. You can trace different aspects of it, but you always have the opportunity to click on Google and just search for other options. I mean, there's endless things that you can do if you want to spend the time to do it. But that's what we got next for you. If you have any questions, you can let me know. Don't be afraid to email me or ask in the classroom.